Welcome to the Greenlight Investor for the week ending May 15, 2015. The goal of the Greenlight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples shown are just that. They're examples of how you can use this worksheet to help make investment choices within your 401k. To make your own investment choices, please refer to your own investment policy to make sure that your choices are appropriate for your investment time horizon, as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risk in markets. Let's go ahead and go right into our worksheet. On the left side of the worksheet, we have the investment choices available to you, and they'll show the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and the description of each of the funds on the left side. We have a hyperlink that will take you to an outside resource if you want to do additional research on any of the funds available to you. We start out with the core investment funds at the top, and those are the index funds available, and then we add the satellite investments, and they start out with the most conservative and progress down to the more aggressive. At the top we have the money market funds, fixed income, U.S. growth and income, the U.S. equity funds, international funds, and finally we'll be in the sector funds at the bottom of the sheet. In the center column, we'll show the performance, and each week we'll update the closing prices, the month-to-date returns, the quarter-to-date returns, and finally, in column R, we'll show the year-to-date return for each of the funds available to you. This is good to check so you can see how your funds are doing against your overall investment objectives, as well as how your funds are doing against the other funds available to you in each of the categories you allocate your capital to. And finally, we have what's a rather unique feature of this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trend scores. It's a relative strength scoring system that will show the week-over-week changes for each of the funds. When you see a bright green light, those will be the stronger funds. They'll have performed the best on a week-over-week basis. And when you see the red lights, you'll see the funds that have been the weakest performers on a week-to-week basis. On the right side, we'll give a numerical value for each of the funds to show the relative strength. When you see a red cell with a negative number, that will show that it's had a negative relative strength compared to the other funds available. And when you see the green lights with positive numbers, those will show the funds that have had the strongest relative performance against the other funds in the categories. When you see a high number, such as this one here, those have been performing the strongest for the longest time. And when you see the lowest red numbers, those have been the weakest performing funds for the long. One of the other things that's interesting to do with these relative strength columns is to see whether the numbers are getting stronger or whether they're getting weaker. And that's often an early indication as to whether the fund will be turning more positive or it could be turning more negative. So it gives you an early warning system to track your funds. With that said, let's go ahead and see how we can use all of this information to take a quick look at your asset allocation and see if there's any changes that need to be made on a week-over-week basis. Let's go ahead and go over and click on the custom views and go to the current allocation, and then you click show, and that will populate the worksheet with your current allocations. As we scroll down, we can see that there's a 10% allocation to the index funds, and that's in the total stock market fund right now. We'll see that there's a 15% allocation to the retirement money market fund. We have a 5% allocation to the growth and income. There's currently a 30% allocation to the U.S. equity funds, and that's set up between two different funds. We have the growth index fund as well as the prime cap fund. As we scroll down, we'll see a 30% allocation to the international funds, with 20% in the Global Equity Fund and 10% in the Pacific Stock Index Fund. And finally, we have a 5% or a 10% allocation, and that's divided into two funds that have 5% each. Once you have that set, you simply use the slider, and let's move the columns over so we can compare and see how our funds are doing. With our index funds, we see that we have the 10% allocation, and the most important columns to look at are column V, and then we'll compare the color of the column U with the column W. What we're looking to see is that we have a green color in the cell and then a green color here. When it turns red, that's an indication that we should take some action with those funds. Let's scroll down and see how our selections are doing. With our index fund, we see that we have a green light and a green light. The money market is yellow and yellow, so we're okay there. As we scroll down, our next fund, we have a 5% allocation, and we're seeing that we have a green light in column U and a green light in W, so there's nothing that needs to be done. We'll scroll down to our 30% allocation to U.S. equity funds, and again we'll see that we have a green light and a green light, as well as our 10% allocation where we have green lights. As we scroll down to our international funds, we'll see the same situation. We've got bullish in all of the funds, so any choice you're in is doing all right. And again, when you see these bright green lights, those are the funds that have performed the strongest on a week-over-week basis. And finally, when you want to take a look at your investments, take a look at the column. You have a 5% allocation, and we're seeing that we have the green light and the green light. And on our last allocation with the 5%, we're seeing that we have a yellow light and a green light, so there's really nothing to do. So that's all you have to do each week to see if your funds need to have any action taken. As long as you're seeing green lights to the left of column V and green lights to the right, there's really not much to do in the category. If you stay within those green lights, you'll generally stay out of trouble in the markets. That's what I've got for this week. I hope it's been helpful and gives you some ideas on how you can manage your 401k choices. If you'd like to find out more how the Green Light Investor can help you make sense of your 401k allocations, simply visit our website at thegreenlightinvestor.org, or you can always send me an email and we can set up a time to review how to use this worksheet to personally set up your investment allocation within your 401k. Thank you again for taking the time to watch this video, and have a great weekend.